Edwards, the coffee with the extra flavor lift, brings you Night Editor. As the presses roll, we join Hal Burdick in the night editor's office for another of his dramatic newsroom yarns. Tonight, the thrilling story of the day old Dad Ball captured a gunman, titled 30 Days to Live.
From the street in front of the little shop came a babble of voices, one rising above the others. He ran into Dad's store. He's got the old man cornered in the back room. And another, the voice of Eb Rainey, the town marshal. Now, keep back, everybody. He's liable to start shooting through the door. I'll handle this. Now then, come out of there, you thug. And if you so much as harm a hair at Dad's head, you'll never live to tell about it.
Well, all evening, Bobby has been aware of a certain edginess on the part of the boss. It is there when Hal and his young desk man leave the busy newsroom between editions and head downstairs to the Cunner lunchroom for a few minutes of relaxation from the grind. In fact, there's a noticeable scowl on Hal's face, and when the coffee is set in front of them, Bobby says,
It's none of my business, Hal, but is something wrong?
Oh, nothing so serious. This good cup of Edwards won't cure it, I guess.
Say, I noticed the state editor was in a long huddle with you earlier tonight.
Yeah.
Did one of the country correspondents miss a story? Is that the trouble?
Oh, and what a story, Bobby. I'm still trying to figure some way to retrieve it. Maybe a Sunday feature.
What was the yarn? That is, if you don't mind telling me.
Well, it's a story that happened in the little town of Hilton 3 months ago.
Hilton?
Yeah.
I seem to remember some item from there. Oh, yeah, a bank robbery. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, that's it, Bobby. That's it. Oh, the correspondent sent us the facts, but missed the real human interest yarn. I got it this afternoon from a friend of mine who lives there.
Oh, for Pete's sake, what's the lowdown on it, Hal?
Well, let me tell you, Bobby, the way it was told to me, then you'll see why I'm so upset about it. The principal figure is a man well along in his 70s. Fred Ball by name, but Dad to everyone in the town. And it all started that afternoon he came down the stairs from Doc Coulter's office and out into the sunshine of Main Street. For a moment he stood there looking around him. It was a good town, a happy town of friendly people. The years of his life had been spent right there, and even now, though they might be growing less, he had a lot to be glad for. He'd never been particularly important to it, unless it was in the happiness he brought to others. Once he had looked to his boy, young Fred, to make the family name mean a little more to the community. But Fred had been taken from him a few years after Sarah died. Then his eyes turned toward young Jimmy, the grandson who was left him to raise. Perhaps Jimmy would still do it. The war had interrupted Jimmy's life, nearly 3 years out fighting the Japs. Back in the States now in a Western hospital, waiting for the medical discharge that would soon come. Then Jimmy would be home again, ready to take up where he left off as a mechanic with the big farm implement company. And someday, well, maybe... Oh, shucks. He couldn't stand there daydreaming. He must get on across the street to his shop. Write Jimmy the news he'd just gotten from Doc Coulter. Then get back to work. Work. He'd been ready to retire about the time the war came along. Take it easy the rest of his days. But even an old tinkerer couldn't quit when there was more need than ever for his hands. With alarm clocks to be fixed, household appliances kept running, bicycles needing repairs. No. Maybe he wasn't a community leader, but he had his place. He left the door to his shop open, went on back to his tiny living quarters in the rear, sat down at the rickety old writing desk to pen his letter to Jimmy. For several minutes, the pen moved slowly, forming the careful, well-rounded letters. Then it stopped. From out in the street, a sound had come to him, a startlingly sharp sound. The old man looked up. Automobile backfire, most likely. Still in all, why, there it was again, and again. Why, confound it, those sounded like pistol shots. And now he could hear people shouting, running footsteps, more shots. Sounds as though they came from the direction of the bank on the corner half-block away. He hurried to the front of his shop. Across the street, people were crowding into store openings. And there, in the doorway to the hardware store, Jim Lennox was drawing a bead with a rifle. What in time was happening? What did it all mean? He stepped to the entrance. Then he was pulling back. A man was running toward him, twisting to fire across his shoulder at someone up the street. The beady eyes under the low-pulled hat saw the open door to Dad's shop, and the old man was knocked backward as the stranger lunged through it. Here, what are you up to? What's going on here? The eyes moved in a swift arc around the dim little shop. Hey, what's that room back there? Why, that's my living quarters. But see here. Get back in there, quick. Now, you wait a minute. Come on, move before I blast you. A thrust of the arm sent the old man stumbling into the back room, the snarling stranger at his heels. The door to the shop slammed behind him. The bolt shot into place. Is that back door to the alley locked? Well, yes, it is, but you can't. Okay. Now then, Pop, you listen to me, if you want to live. I've already plugged one guy to come out of the bank, and I don't mind adding you to my list. Now, you sit down till I get my breath. I got use for you. From out in the street came a babble of voices, one rising above the others. He ran into Dad's shop. He's got the old man cornered in the back room. And another, the voice of Eb Rainey, the town marshal. Now, keep back, everybody. He's liable to start shooting through the door. I'll handle this. Footsteps coming into the store. Rainey's voice again. All right, you. You come out of there with your hands up, or I'm coming in after you. You try it, and you better bring somebody along to carry the old man out. He gets it first. You so much as harm a hair of his head, and I'll deal the cards, copper. You play 'em as they fall. Now, I'm coming out, but the old guy comes with me. You get it? He's in front of me with my rod at the back of his head. You may blast me, but he goes down with me. Outside, the voices rose excitedly. The gunman turned to Dad. Hey, you get the play, Pop? You're my ticket out of this place. And if I guess right, those guys are going to stand there nice and quiet and let us walk up the street to my getaway car. And you go with me when I drive out of town just to make sure. All right, how about it, Constable? Talk fast. A moment of silence, broken by murmurs beyond the door. Then, I guess we got to do as you say. We don't want no harm to come to Dad, but sooner or later we'll... Save it, I'm in a hurry. Now, when I open the door, he's in front of me. The gun in the back of his neck with the hammer up. And I want to see all of you with your mitts in the air. Okay, Pop. You first. No. The voice was calm. No, sir. I'm not going to do it. You'll do it or else. The muzzle of the automatic swung upward. Or else you'll kill me. And that's all right, too. If you think I'm bluffing, you're crazy. Oh, I know you mean it. But so do I. The hammer of the automatic came back. I'm giving you about 2 seconds to get over to that door. And if I don't, you'll shoot me. And then where are you? You won't have any ticket out of here. Anxious voices were calling from beyond the door, but Dad was going on. I've lived in this town all my life. Never been able to do anything for it. But today I can. I can bring you what you justly deserve for robbing and killing. I got a grandson who's been risking his life to rid the world of killers and madmen. Come might nigh getting killed himself doing it. In an army hospital recovering right now. He didn't shirk his duty to his fellow man, and the least I can do is follow his example. And if you think I'm afraid to die to rid the world of such as you, read that letter on the desk that I was writing to him just before you come a-tearing in here. The gunman's eyes flashed to the written page on the desk, darted back to the calm face of the old man. With a twisting jerk of the thick shoulders, he turned back to the desk, picked up the sheet of paper, began to read. Dear Jimmy, I expect this is one of the last letters you'll be getting from me. I'll try to get down to see you once more, though it isn't easy to leave my work now. Anyway, I got some news for you. I was over and had a talk with Doc Coulter this afternoon. And Jimmy boy, Doc tells me I've only got 30 days to live. Huh? The eyes darted back to the old man's face, widening as understanding came to them. 30 days to live? Yeah. Tain't much in a lifetime of more than 70 years, is it? Few days, more or less, don't make any difference. So that's it. You're going to croak anyway. Yeah. Kind of looks as though you picked a ticket to an escape that's already been canceled for you. And now, you no-good scoundrel, I'm going to walk over to that door and unbolt it and tell the boys to come on in and get you. And if you want to live long enough to so much as take a chance on what a court of law will do to you for your crimes, you better drop that gun and have your hands in the air when I open the door, because Eb Rainey won't stop to ask any questions. The marshal was the first into the room, followed by the others, who pinned the gunman to the wall and held him until the handcuffs were snapped around his wrists. The crowd surged close around the doorway, voices rising in admiration, topped by Rainey's as he turned to face the old man.
Well, how did you ever do it, Dad? How did you ever talk him into giving up so easy? Oh, I know. Figured it is my chance after all these years to do something good for the town and make Jimmy proud of me and kind of set an example for him when he has to face the obstacles that his being wounded have set before him.
And you're all right, Dad. He didn't harm you any?
Well, a little shaky, kind of a terrifying few minutes. I'll sort of sit down here and sort of get my breath.
Yeah, you want us to call Doc Coulter and have him give you something to...
No, don't need Doc. I'm all right.
Rainey swung back to face the gunman.
Yeah, it's lucky for you didn't hurt Dad, or you'd be so full of holes they could use you for a sieve.
Lucky? What's lucky in it for me? The snarling voice spit out the words between tight lips. I'd be out of here and gone if I wasn't unlucky. Picking an old guy for my getaway ticket who ain't afraid of a gun because he's only got 30 days to live. An awesome stillness flooded the room as every eye turned toward the old man in the chair.
Why, Dad, is what it says true?
The old man's smile had a quiet glory in it.
Well, in a manner of speaking, Eb. In a manner of speaking.
Well, of course it's true. It's in the letter to the kid in the Army hospital. I read it myself. That's why I gave up. Killing him in here wouldn't get me nowheres, and I knew he wasn't bluffing because he didn't care what happened to him.
Dad, tell us, is what he says true?
There was something close to a twinkle in the eyes now, as the old man answered.
Partly true, Eb, partly. And that's what had me scared. I was afraid he'd turn the page and read the rest of what it says.
The rest? What rest?
Well, the rest of the sentence on the next page. It reads, Doc says I've only got 30 days to live. 30 days to live in my present cramped quarters back of my shop. Then he'll have the house he's fixing over to rent us all ready for us to move into, and you can get your medical discharge and come home, and we'll start building a new life together.
He lifted his eyes to the scowling face of the gunman.
Shucks to thunder, young fella. I ain't going to die. I got to live for my grandson.
Folks, a good story always has a kind of flavor to it, an extra something that, well, takes it out of the ordinary. The same goes for good coffee, for Edwards coffee, because Edwards has a delicious extra flavor lift that really sets it apart. It's true this delicious flavor is partly due to the choice coffee beans used in the exclusive Edwards blend, the finest beans pre-selected for size, shape, and color. But that's not all. You see, Edwards coffee is blended and roasted in small batches under Mr. Dwight Edwards' own personal formula, the careful, expert custom way learned over many, many years. Each batch is roasted right to the split second, to just that point where the full, rich, natural coffee flavor is fully developed. To keep this flavor roaster fresh, Edwards coffee is ground for you right at the store. Try a pound. See how delicious, how rich it is. If you don't thoroughly enjoy Edwards Extra Flavor Lift, your money refunded. Edwards coffee is featured at all Safeway stores. Well, 30 Days to Live was certainly an action-packed yarn with an ending that surprised all of us, Al. What's the story for next week?
It's the story of a man who came back from the wars to the place he called home, but a home that he hated. He knew he had to go back to meet an obligation from which he ran away, to settle the accounts of the past for the sake of the girl who awaited him in the future. But the unexpected happened when he came face to face with the man he dreaded to meet. I called the story The Big House on the Hill, and it's a romantic yarn with an ending I think you'll all like. Good night.
Join us next week at this same time when the Roar of the Presses introduces another of Hal Burdick's famous night editor stories. This is Bill Baldwin saying goodnight for Edwards Coffee.